a 19-wicket opening day here in Perth to begin the 2025-2026 Ashes series. And here are your takeaways. To start with, Vish, I thought big contrast between the two attacks today. You had an Australia team where you had Mitchell Starc, probably the outstanding bowler of the day, taking a 7 for, but not really backed up by Brendan Doggett and to a greater extent Scott Boland behind him. Contrast that to an England attack which felt pretty relentless from the start, and I think that showed in the results.
Yeah, you think of Australia's pace attack and they have history behind them, but the fact that Josh Hazlewood and Pat Cummins aren't there means actually all that history then falls on the shoulders of Mitchell Starc. So he ends up taking 7 for, and that seems like a job done. And as Brydon Cast admitted at the end of the play, you know, England, a team who don't like to speak negatively, did see that it was under par. And then you have this other attack who essentially for the longest time have been a nebulous concept, but they've been in construction for about 3 years. There's been a lot of investment in getting Jofra Archer and Mark Wood to this point where they're playing only their second test together. And then you've got Brydon Cast, someone who they've chosen to ignore his domestic numbers because they feel he's got the attributes to succeed at test level. And then you've got Gus Atkinson, who ultimately came into the team as an out-and-out pace merchant who ends up being the controlling holding bowler. And then typically everyone does the hard work and Stokes comes in and gets a 5 for. I mean, it was quite absurd, really. And I think it speaks more to what Australia didn't have to underline just how much England have in a away Ashes test.
Yeah, big decision from England as well to go with that all-seam attack. It's not really worked for them in the past when they've gone down that route, but at a venue like this, which is obviously renowned for pace and bounce, I think we knew coming into this test that was probably how it was going to play. They obviously won an important toss as well. I think each of the 5 tests previously played at this venue have been won by the team batting first. And it seems so far to be working relatively well for England, despite the fact it's been obviously a very dramatic opening day. The outstanding innings today on day one was played by Harry Brook. There was probably not much doubt how he was going to approach his first Ashes series in Australia, but when he charged down the pitch and stepped outside leg stump to his second ball off Mitchell Starc to smack him through the covers for 3, it pretty much cleared up that it was always that it was going to be as we always thought it was. His 50 was the highest score of the day, the only half century of the day, the longest innings of the day as well. I think there were some hints in terms of how Australia attacked him towards the end of his innings that maybe they might try some more short stuff against him in future. But it was a pretty seamless start to cricket in Australia for Harry Brook.
Yeah, it was. I think it's his highest score. But his previous highest score was 22, I think.
Yeah, he's played some T20 cricket here across a Big Bash season and a T20 World Cup and done really poorly. I think the word he used to describe it was horrendous. But he's obviously done pretty well today.
Yeah, and I suppose special mention to Ollie Pope, who seems to be batting differently and being a bit more front on. And a shame that actually the way he got out was a bit old Ollie Pope because he was falling over to the offside and maybe had come across his stumps too much. I'd also say there was a point where Scott Boland got injured and then England lost 5 wickets when Australia were a bowler down, and it had the whiff, or rather the stench of what England did at Lord's in 2023 when Nathan Lyon tore his calf. And rather than push home their advantage, they basically chucked it in the air. They sort of did exactly the same here. The difference was, I think Australia played more bad shots than England.
Yeah, and I suppose the other bizarre thing that ended up happening was the speed of England's collapse meant that they actually had slightly better bowling conditions probably than they might have if they stuck around for longer and made an extra 20 runs. They lost 5 for 12 and 19 balls to end the innings, which felt like a moment where Australia had really rammed home the advantage that they got at the start of the day. As it is, England in the ascendancy overnight. It should be a brilliant day too. You can follow it live on ESPNcricinfo.com.